Emailing teachers and your friends is very important as a student. So today we're going to look at just different ways that we should be looking at our email system and ways to set it up so that it's easy and we feel more comfortable when we do email. Okay, so let's take a look. So why is email etiquette important? Well, not all of us feel comfortable expressing how we feel in the classroom, and email is a great way to kind of think and reflect, collect our thoughts, and correspond with our teachers, parents, etc. In a way that lets us calmly and collectively express those thoughts and feelings. So we're going to go through some basics of email etiquette today. Okay. So when you send a letter or an email, you always have to include your full name. And in the subject line, it's good to put a very brief outline of what you'll be saying in the email. So for example, we have today's lesson, so then the teacher knows that you're corresponding about the lesson, or it's about your grades, etc. Maybe you want a letter of recommendation, many different reasons. Something that is always good advice is to make sure you update your email address from elementary and middle school. Many times students have some funny or cool or cute email addresses that really don't work well as you get to high school and later on college and work. So just try to make sure that your email abides by these guidelines. And it's almost always easy to use your name and maybe the year of your birth, etc. As a basic guideline for creating emails. Okay. Salutations are very important as well. Sometimes I've gotten emails from students that look like this. Yo, Mills, what's up? If it's a personal email and it's a student corresponding with me after school year is over, or I have a very close relationship with the student, or they graduated and they want to come in contact and it's more like a text, then it's kind of okay. But typically you don't want to do this, okay? Also saying hey to somebody, to a teacher. You wouldn't say this in the hallways, hopefully, and you don't want to say it in email. So, dear Mr. or Mrs., greetings, hello, good afternoon. Those are typically much more accepted as common practice. Having a signature block is something that almost all of us teachers do. Your parents probably do as well at work, and many people at the academic levels as well. So for example, a very basic one is best regards, or sincerely, you can write, fondly. I mean, it's more personal, I guess you could say. You really want to say it to a teacher. But these basic ones, and then you just put your name here, okay? And if you want, you can add these different items down here that are italicized, okay? So again, it's also important to keep your emails brief. You don't want to write a book. Keep it very short and sweet. And if it's something that it requires a lot more time and consideration, request that you meet in person. Also good to make sure that your font is a little more typical. All right, decorative font, cute font, stuff like that is fine for personal emails, but for typical correspondences with your teachers, with coworkers, it shouldn't be very fancy and creative like that. Just basic stuff to keep in mind. Now, with the tone, email is a sort of communication that's only been around for about 20 years or so, and really much more used on an almost daily basis in the last 5 to 10 years. So many people sometimes misconstrue or misunderstand what you're trying to say in an email. It can take things out of context. They could take things personally. I know it's happened to me, and sometimes it's best to, again, keep your emails short, very factual, try to be positive in the email, and don't get too in-depth, because that's how things can get taken out of context. Right? Again, winky faces, smiles, stuff like that. It depends on your relationship with the teacher. If it's somebody you know personally, have a good relationship, if you know they have a really good sense of humor, it's generally accepted. If it's someone you're not too familiar with, or they may not receive it well, it's okay to leave it out. It's not going to make or break the message. Now, complaints or negative emails where you're upset or not happy about something, that's going to happen, especially as a teenager, especially in high school. So try to keep in mind some of these different pointers when you're writing something if you're upset. I really like this last one that we put in here that says use I statements rather than you. So if I am upset at how today's lesson went, then I as the teacher can be much more empathetic or understanding of where you're coming from. If a student writes your lesson or you did not do something well, it's automatically going to put any person on the defense, and it makes us less empathetic and sympathetic to your position. So try to use I statements. It's a good thing to do generally in life, even when you're speaking in person to someone. So here's an example of maybe a complaint email. Mr. Millard, the lesson that we had today was confusing, and I feel insecure about the content. As a result, the grades on the upcoming tests may reflect poorly on my comprehension, not my effort. Could I suggest that those of us, should say us, those of us who were confused by the topic meet in a small group to use visuals so that we can feel more confident with the lesson. Okay? Here's a good little tip. Make sure that you use spell check. All right? It just kind of is a good thing to do. So here we have a little error that we want to correct. So before I send it out, I'm reading it back to myself. Okay? Good topics for emails. You're confused during the lesson. You're concerned about your grade. You may be absent. Maybe you need a favor. Hey, Mr. Millard, I would really like if you could write me a letter of recommendation. I am going to be looking at colleges with my parents this upcoming fall. And also the last one I like as well, it's hard sometimes, teachers and parents, adults, we don't always do the best job at doing this, but we try to when we can. And as a student, it's good to do this. It's good practice to get into as well, is complimenting people and showing appreciation. Okay, some bad topics for emails. Okay, don't try to turn in an assignment through email if your teacher specified against it. I know that sometimes in my history class, we want paper copies of homeworks, and sometimes students email them to us. It's just a very difficult way to manage it and makes grading and keeping on track everything very difficult. Okay, so another thing here, don't yell or criticize a teacher directly. Instead, ask to meet in person. Sometimes things happen in classroom. Things are said, things are done. Teachers are dealing with anywhere from 20 to 30 students, and if a situation occurs that is something that bothers you, you can email and ask to meet. That's probably the best, because in-person conversations are almost always better done than through text or email, and that's just good for your personal life as well. Okay, that's the end of this presentation. We're going to follow up in the next clip with some examples of how you can set up those emails. Okay, now let's take a look at how on your iOS device, which is fairly similar to how you could do it on your computer, or if you have an Android, or if you use a Google Chromebook. So if we go into settings, all right, we have our different tabs. And if we go down to mail, okay, we have different options. We can add different accounts. Okay, I have my Gmail account, and you have very different options here that you can use to make things easier. But very basic, one of the things we had said in the video was that having a signature is a very good thing. So what I want to do is I come in here, and I don't want to say sent from my iPad or my iPhone. That doesn't look too professional or responsible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my greeting at the bottom, which is usually best regards. I put a comma. I'll put in Jason Millard, and then I'll just put in North Shore teacher, and I can put assistant track coach as well. Okay, now if I want, I can go in and really edit this, and I can make this italicized. Okay, and boom. There you go. So every time you send out a correspondence on this device, it will put this at the bottom of your message. So that's a very simple way to kind of make your email look a little bit more professional, a little bit better.